Early in my husband and I's relationship, we experienced some really tough losses. So it got us really thinking about what was important to us in life. And we decided to make a big change by downsizing from our 2,000 plus square foot house into just over 320 square feet. In our tiny house, we have lots of prep space on our butcher block countertops. We have all of the necessary appliances. So we've got a dishwasher, we've got the stovetop and the oven, we've got a microwave, a full-size fridge, but even with all of those appliances, we still have enough storage for all of the things that we need for a family of 4. Some of the necessities that were really important to us in the tiny house is I love to cook. We have a 3-burner propane gas cooktop. We're able to cook all of the things that I was able to cook in our traditional house, but also keeping in mind that we're cooking for a family of 4. So things like enough storage in the fridge for the whole family, having easily accessible snack drawers for the kids, and just being able to put all of your dry goods. And I've started to grow things out in the garden, so being able to store some of the things and jar some of the things that I grow out there. And I also create a lot of dishes and I don't like washing them all. So being able to have a dishwasher, but also have a large enough sink. I did a lot of research and physically going into different tiny homes through different Airbnbs and stuff like that to figure out the different builders, their style, but also how willing they were to make certain adjustments to accommodate my family. My builder, they were very accommodating to the degree that they could be, considering it's a small footprint, but they did things like making sure we had storage under the fridge, making sure we had a full-size fridge. But if in particular having a full-size fridge is not that important to you, then you can go down on your fridge size. For the individual that wants a full-size stove, you can opt for that. Because we knew that we were going to be towing this tiny house and actually moving it around more than the average tiny houser, we wanted to make sure that we had equal weight on both sides, because we didn't want to have any issues with turning and weight shifting too much to one side of the tiny house and any issues along that. So that's why we decided on having counters on both sides. In terms of comparison between the big kitchen and my tiny house kitchen, I hadn't even thought about things I miss in terms of food preparation, but I missed being able to have a lot of people in the space. And so now we have to get creative with people inside and entertaining outside, which is not a year-round thing, but we make it work. Speaking of entertaining people, over here we have our dining, as well as study, as well as workspace. And then when we come to entertain people, we can fold down either one or both of the leaves of the table here and still have some things hanging out on the back half there. One of the really great things for me in tiny living has been that I have explored my building side, and I am still able to have a tool collection, which is in my tool shed underneath the tiny house. So I built this myself and built it with the purpose of serving multiple uses. So this space here doubles as our dining, but also our homeschool space. Our kids actually spend most of their time homeschooling between here, and we also have another little table when they're not getting along that great, because let's face it, kids are kids. And we also have a monitor that we can put on the desk here and then tuck it away in the couch over there. So you might be wondering how we actually operate during dinner time, because there are only 2 placemats here. Well, we get creative. We do have a table that we fold away and it tucks underneath the couch here. But realistically, when we're eating really quick, we don't always eat at the same time, or somebody might sit on the stairs and use the upper step as a table, and we just make it happen. Here we are in the living room, and this is where we spend a lot of our time for movie nights and game nights. We have a lot of those. We have a L-shaped couch over here that can also pull out and serve as a bed for our guests. We do have storage in the chaise portion of it. Tips on buying furniture for tiny house is really important to be able to have multiple uses. So ours specifically doubling for sleep as well as storage was really important to us. We are in the market for another couch, and it's been a challenge because we want it to serve the exact purpose of a family of 4, potentially some guests, but kind of filling some dead space that we have. I have thought about exercising my building skills and building something of my own, but I'm still mulling that over. A good place to look for tiny house furniture has been a lot of tiny houses use IKEA furniture. A lot of folks get things custom built. There are a lot of companies doing modular sectionals that have storage within each kind of component. So those are great. You just got to figure out what works for you and what storage that you need. When it comes to decorating a tiny space, you have to be really intentional about everything that you put in and it's serving a purpose. The purpose for us tends to be plants, but they help filter the air. Over my left shoulder here, we have hooks for purses, for jackets, for all of the things that families and kids will need to hang up. And then we have the bookshelf over here, which stores extra books that the kids use. Anyone that homeschools knows books, books, books. We have so many of them. And then little hidden elements, you know? It may not fit the feng shui, but we need a pencil sharpener. The really great thing about tiny houses is, again, being very intentional about every space and being methodical about it. If you think about your traditional stairs, it's all wasted space generally. But in our tiny house, we've used every single square inch that we can for storing things like our mixers. So a lot of those creature comforts and hobbies that you have in a traditional house, you can still have and tuck them right away where nobody will know. Interestingly enough, in a tiny house, you can transition. So this used to be our pantry, but we found some better use with putting our kids' supplies in there and all kinds of things.
Tiny living has been something that I was never attracted to. My wife would watch TV. She would see people on there living their best life. I said, we're good where we're at. I don't understand the appeal. We used to have a nice large house. We hosted family. We were checking all the boxes. And when we had to deal with the passing of my father and a few other people who were monumental in raising us, it felt like it shook our foundation a little bit. Started thinking about all the different things that we were holding on to, physically and mentally. And there was really nothing holding us back anymore. Once the pandemic hit, it shut down all that congregating and community and all the things that were keeping us there in Boston. Once we did that, we basically made the leap and said, okay, well, we've done enough research. Of course, for me, I needed to feel super comfortable understanding what I was getting myself into. So we did the stay in a few different tiny houses just to feel it out. Made sure the kids were comfortable with the idea of making that transition. Timing just seemed perfect. So we set sail.
Once the decision was made, the hunt was on to find a builder. Having tried out different floor plans, we decided that we wanted a gooseneck orientation. We scoured the internet for reputable builders. We just so happened to, one of the tiny houses that we stayed in was built by Mint Tiny Homes, who, once we went onto their website, we saw that they had a great floor plan, which is the
Canada Gooseneck.
Yeah, the Canada Gooseneck, and that's the model that we decided upon. So when it was all said and done, we ended up paying $118,000. That also included our customizations as well as delivering the tiny house to Central Valley, California. I would decide on a major city that I could readily find a travel nurse contract, and then I would start hitting the phones and making calls for those different places. And that's kind of been the trend during our tiny house experience, was placing a lot of calls to RV parks to figure out if they actually allow tiny houses, and which is why we have added a component to our website for the states that have tiny house friendly parking spots. And it's a growing list because thankfully, you know, a lot more places are creating tiny house friendly parking. So we had the deadline of meeting our builder's delivery guy in California, which was where my first contract was. So we started off our 10-day cross-country road trip. We visited national parks, created lots of memories, but started off on our tiny house journey, having never met it before. So the first time meeting it was the day that we were moving in, July of 2021. We're now in North Carolina. I had a contract starting here. In total, we've stayed in California, Arizona, South Carolina, North Carolina, but we've made stops all throughout the country. But the difference in our stay now, this is the first time we haven't been in an RV park. We are now in a tiny house community. And we have now been at Cranmore Meadows here in North Carolina for 2 years. put it out there that our tiny house is paid for. So we don't pay anything on our tiny house. So we would only pay the lot rent. Now we are paying $650 a month. That includes water, sewage, trash. And then separately, we pay about $100 on average per month for electric. We pay maybe $50 for internet. And then for our propane tanks, anywhere from 3 to 4 tank exchanges a month, and each time it's about $15. It was like a crash course in the perspective of what's important in life. Parting with some things can be a bit challenging, but that's what it is. They're things. And our mindset had become, we're not holding on to things anymore because, they don't serve life's greater purpose. So here we are in the first loft. This is the larger loft that's above the living room. And this is my 12-year-old daughter's loft. Initially, when we moved into the tiny house, we kept in mind that we have growing kids. At the time, they were 4 and 7, and they weren't quite ready to be in their own spaces. So we had the designer put in a divider so that they were able to kind of peek above the top, have a conversation with each other, play with each other at the foot of the bed. They had enough storage for the two of them. And then we were able to transition them into their own individual spaces. So this is now her own bedroom, which she loves. She loves being able to create and, make it her own. So we recently painted it her favorite color. And she's able to store all of her trinkets and all of her books. She's a very avid reader. She has her own bracelet making business. So this is a great space for her. As we think about the kids continuing to grow, because we are all tall in this family, my daughter's almost as tall as me, naturally they're going to want more space, more privacy. So we are looking at land so that we can put not a traditional large home, still something with a smaller footprint, and potentially even adding a second tiny house and creating a shared space in between them where we can connect the two tiny houses. So the really great thing about tiny living is you have options and they're affordable. And that's my daughter's loft. Let's head over to my son's loft. He really enjoys having his own space. One of the things that you can also consider, yes, it's a small space, but being intentional about the space. So every so often we give the kids a chance to change out their wall decals, or with my daughter recently painting her room, reconfiguring the space. So there is still some flexibility even within a tiny house to make it your own. Initially, it was a blank slate, but I was able to add a rod as he got a little bit older. Now he has his big boy clothes. So he has a small closet space up there, but just in front of that, he really enjoys gaming with his friends and with his cousins that aren't super close. So he enjoys the cozy space. He enjoys the proximity to the kitchen, the bathroom, and the family when we're all down here. Now we are in the bathroom, and when we were working with our designer, we wanted a few things on our checklist. One of the things was we are tall, so we didn't want to be crouched over washing our hands. We wanted our shower to be tall enough to fit all of us, and then we also wanted a flushing toilet. Being that there are 4 of us in the tiny house, we knew we needed enough storage for things like multiple towels and multiple linens to change out. We have 2 drawers under the sink, and then in the stairs we store all of the extras. Things like detergent, things like cleaning products are all in the stairs here. Another thing, I could not imagine myself going to a laundromat, which for many people, that's okay. But for a family of 4, we would be there every 2 days. So having the washer and dryer were a must. Because our kids are a little bit older, we were okay with foregoing the tub. And so we have a full-size shower with a bench in it. And behind me, we have tons of storage for all of our linens as well as our dirty clothes. And up ahead is the master bedroom. One of the things that was important to us is we wanted to be able to walk and stand in our bedroom. We couldn't imagine changing up in a loft. Some people do it, that's fine. But for us, we wanted to be able to stand while we were doing those things. So we are in the gooseneck portion of our tiny house. I've got plenty of height here. I'm 5'8.5", my husband is 6'4". So even stretching out, we don't have to worry about, knocking our hands or anything like that. So if you can tolerate 3 to 4 steps, then, this might work for you. We have a queen size bed that we can change the orientation of, and we do that several times a year where we can do it like a day bed situation or in the orientation that it is in right now. We made sure that we got a higher bed. So this is 18 inches up. And so we've got tons of storage underneath where we can easily get to things, but we can tuck things away that we don't need for a while and don't have to worry about actually going somewhere like a storage unit to get things that we don't need on a regular basis. We do have a television that folds down for our viewing pleasure. And then I have customized for my needs a little desk here where I can work, and also I have a printer underneath and I store some things underneath there. We also have a decent sized closet that I customized myself. Again, being intentional about every space. We wanted to still be able to feature our kids' artwork. And so we added this space here where we're able to have a few more plants, but display all of our kids' artwork, and we can change this out on a regular basis. And then we also have who the tiny house is named after, TJ. TJ is my late father-in-law who shortly before we downsized and went to tiny living passed away. Suddenly, he was not ill or anything like that, but he passed away, and he would have loved this lifestyle. He was very supportive of our family and just living life intentionally.
The process of just thinking about all the different things that you could invite into your home, you're just way more cautious and aware. And I'm not just thinking of things now, I'm also thinking about, the development of my children. Never thought I would spend so much time with them and be so ingrained in their everyday life now. Before, I would take them to work with me when they were younger, and that was cool. But I think about so many different fathers that are always just carrying the luggage and all the things when they're going on vacation. You're doing so much grunt work. You're probably not as present as you want to be. So I think of that every time I get the opportunity to be present with my kids. I'm not holding all this luggage, all these things. We pack light no matter where we go.
I would say that's a life-defining characteristic, is we just pack light.
Yeah, and we carry memories, not luggage. And we're gonna keep making more memories. So while they sometimes get stuck on what they miss, they have a whole lot more to look forward to. And we try to make sure we do that every so often. We just put the screens away, just go for a walk. Mom is really good at making sure we capitalize on
being outdoors,
the graphics outside.
That's right. If you're interested in learning more about our journey, check us out on livingthetiny.dream.com, also on Instagram at living.the.tiny.dream. We're also on TikTok, but you'll find the links below. Thanks for watching. See you later.